When the prophet Job lost his family, his words were, Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord has given, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be God's name for having lent my family to me. And these have to be our words now, too, as we face the loss of our husband, our father, our relative, and our friend, Ed Davidson. And we say, thank you, God. We say, Adonai Natan, that God lent him to us and gave him to this world. Would it have been longer? Would it have been nicer? Of course. But on the other hand, he fought and fought and fought for life. And now Adonai Lakach, and now God has taken him from our midst. And we say thank you, God, with the word Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Blessed be God's name. And this is a time in which we need comfort. So we do what people have done throughout the centuries. They turn to the book of Psalms, and there they find the words, Esa Enai El HaHarim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Me'im Adonai Yosei Shemayim V'aretz. I lift up mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. Adonai yishmar tzeitcha uvoecha me'ata v'ad olam. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Together as a congregation, if you know the words of the 23rd Psalm, you please join with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai ma'adam v'teda ehu. O God, what are we that you have regard for us? And what are we that you are mindful of us? We're like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright, they shall have peace. God, you redeem the soul of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it is written, L'chol zaman v'la'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et la'leda v'et lamud, et la'tat v'et la'kornitiyah. For everything there is a season and a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And it's interesting, this moment is just one of those moments which is both a time to keep silent, because when you're a mourner, you find it very difficult to speak at a time like this. And yet what we know about mourning is you really talk your way through grief. so that the more that we can get the family to tell stories, and the better off they are, and the more that we can get them to speak. And one of the best things all of you can do for the family as you come to pay a condolence call is A, obviously to get them to speak, but B, to tell them an Ed story. Now, I know you're worried that they're going to say it and they're going to begin to cry and so forth, but they're thinking about Ed and they want to hear it. They want to know how Ed touched you. So this right here is a time of storytelling. And it's the beginning of storytelling. So I'm going to call upon his children representing their siblings as well. And then I'm going to call upon Tanya for a message from one of Ed's great friends. And then I'm going to call upon Stuart Mizinski, and then I shall return.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone so much for coming. It would have made my dad so happy to see all of you here, knowing he was loved by so many. There are thousands of things I want to say about my relationship with my dad and who he was as a person. Strong, funny, brilliant, and generous, yes, but also headstrong, stubborn, and impatient. Despite all of his positive attributes, he also had many faults, as all people do. And I'm lucky enough to say that I've inherited all of it. I do get too angry. I don't take no for an answer. I always ask for the manager, and basically I never want to admit that there are things I cannot control. If you knew my dad at all, you know he was the same way. But these are the qualities that made him as successful as he was. A successful entrepreneur, father, businessman, musician, comedian. My dad was capable of doing whatever he set his mind to. I hope to achieve even half of the things he was achieving in his life. I want to explain a bit what he was like as a dad. I learned the difference between right and wrong through two characters called Chippy and Chappy. Chippy was a total sweetheart. He was happy, polite, and well-behaved. Chappy, on the other hand, was horrible. He was selfish, mean, and unkind. And I think my dad created these characters to explain the kinds of people I would encounter in my life and to show me the value of living like a Chippy instead of a Chappy. He never told me what I should be or how I should act. He simply showed me the benefits of doing good deeds and being a thoughtful person. As I got older, however, I'd ask him what he thought I should do. He was the only person I knew that would tell me the honest truth and his unfiltered opinion. This is how, as I'm sure you all know, he was with most people. The difference was I asked him to be this way with me, and I was honored to know he thought I was strong enough to handle the truth, whatever it may have been. My dad never underestimated me, as many people have, and he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself and understood me when others couldn't. Me and my dad were incredibly close for this reason. No matter how much I talked or how fast I talked, he always was there to listen. He was always there to give advice and to bring me up when I was down. We had very few arguments, for we almost always were on the same page, and that's what made us so close. My dad always said he was a 6-year-old living in an older person's body. The perfect example of this was when we stopped in Atlantic City this summer, despite the fact that he couldn't walk. His favorite pastime became using the honk button on his hand-controlled wheelchair and laughing at all of the people he spooked on his travels. The importance of looking at life with childish curiosity and excitement is one of the most important things he ever taught me. I think that the persistence and wonder that comes with this outlook on life is one of the main things that made my dad so incredible. So thank you, Dad, for every laugh, every tear, and every attribute you've given me. You're the only person I know that would simply say no to a 3 to 6 month life sentence and have that actually work out for you. I'm so grateful for every moment I've spent with you, and I'm so honored to be your daughter, and I'll always be your little one. I love you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Davidson. If you don't know me, I'm Ed's eldest daughter. My dad and I also had a very special relationship. I like to think of him as my teacher of life, since as long as I can remember, my dad was constantly bestowing knowledge on me, sometimes things I didn't want to hear, but like Abby said, he always told me the truth. Whether it was how to study, how to meditate, how to let go of grudges, which is something we're all still working on, he knew it all. That's what he said. He knew every single thing there was to know in the world. And I would tell him when I was little, that's not possible. You're not God. And he said, well, I'm close. I've kept a letter that he wrote me for my 16th birthday in my jewelry box for about 15 years now. When I moved out to LA when I was 18 for college, I made sure I took it with me because even though at the time it just seemed sappy and like, oh, I have to read this 6-page letter, Dad, why are you so emotional and all this, but I knew it would be important one day, and he told me to never lose it. And I lose a lot of things. I've somehow held on to this letter. I'm going to read a few parts from it that I think really sum him up and some of the best lessons that he's taught me. Try hard, not to please anyone, but to get the most out of everything. Fall harder. Big mistakes make for big progress. Give to others every day. Money, time, prayers, good deeds, niceness. You can only get what you give. If you don't give, then there's no room to get. This isn't BS, it's true. It's all in capital letters and underlined. If you try to do something good, but your goodness isn't returned, just do more of it. The result isn't as important as the intention. Life is about fun, even when it seems like crap. A roller coaster is fun, even though it is scary. A sad movie is fun, even when it makes you cry. The real fun is experiencing with a sense of childish amazement all things that come into your life. It's the mixture of everything that makes life so special. If everything you ate was sweet, soon it would taste the same, boring. You can only appreciate sweet because you've tasted bitter. So is life. You can only experience happiness if you know what sad is. Something else really important that I need to mention that is a lesson that will truly stick with me forever is a term he created in his business practices but also worked in all areas of life. When he ran his relocation company, CRS, something he taught all of his employees was to wow people. This didn't mean showing off, proving yourself, or making people like you. It was about doing something kind for others that would make people remember you. It could be as small as remembering someone's name and saying hello when they thought you had no idea who they were, helping someone during a time of need when no one else seemed to want to, giving someone a small gift because you saw it and thought of them. He would say in business and in life, you want people to say, wow, I can't believe they did that for me. It was about helping others and not yourself, about being a mensch, which, as many of you know, in Yiddish means showing integrity, honor, and overall being a good person. The memories with my dad are endless, from long talks about life by the fireplace to visiting colleges and high school, planning for my future, endless laughs about jokes that often we just thought were funny, showing us inappropriate movies from a really young age. When I was really young, people would ask me what my favorite movie was, and I'd basically be like, well, it's a tie between Caddyshack and Pretty Woman, and people were astounded and kind of terrified. We experienced so much together, and my dad made me the woman that I am today and the woman that I'm going to be. When I have a family of my own one day, I'll bestow my dad's knowledge onto them. Who knows, I might even write a book. I would love to write a book about my dad. Even though my dad's not physically here with us anymore, I know that he'll always be in my heart, and he's just one prayer away. I love you, Dad, and I know we'll be together again one day. Thank you.
I found this poem next to Ed's bed. He was in hospice the last two, I can't remember, since before Thanksgiving. And for all of you that came to see him and be with him when he was trying so hard to get well and called and visited, it just meant so much to him. I found this poem next to his bed there. It said, love. So many words are used robotically. Love you is just a travesty, meaningless way to express so little, but now and again, much more than spittle, the word means everything, and actions make them real and winged. You are always there when I need you most, and illness proves the love you host. So thank you for being there through my treatment and loss of hair. Your love is proven every day, much more than just the words you say. Your love is shown by how you care. Love me. And I just got this new phone, and I can't figure it out, which is something I had in common with my husband. Shoot. Okay, I think it's a thumbprint. There we go. This came from Peter Rezepka, and he asked me to read it here. Aliki's been very ill. She fell, she hurt her head, and they're trying to get her well down in Florida, so he sent this to me to read to you. Dear Tanya, for all of the years I knew Eddie, he was one of my best friends. I loved him like a brother. I remember our dinners out together, which began before Eddie even met you. The dinners together, as you know, continued for years after the two of you were married and grew to include your two beautiful daughters as well as his other children. Eddie loved his family with a fierce devotion and was so proud of all of you. Aliki and I always enjoyed our time with Eddie and the family he was so proud of. Even after you moved from Cleveland and we no longer enjoyed our frequent dinners out together, we talked regularly and got together whenever he came to town and our schedules allowed. Eddie was a hard-working and successful businessman in his various endeavors. I am going to miss his intellect and the conversations we shared regularly. We would get on the phone and talk about everything from business to family to current affairs. Eddie was one of a kind. He was a one-of-a-kind man and a true friend. I'm going to miss our friendship so much. Just knowing that he was only a phone call away. Stay strong, cherish each other, and remember Aliki and I are always here for you. Love, Peter and Aliki. Thank you.
Sammy Davis Jr. never knew Ed Davidson, but I believe he captured his essence with this song. You'll recognize it, but I'm not going to try to duplicate Sammy Davis Jr. Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I gotta be me. I gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? I want to live, not merely survive. And I won't give up this dream or life that keeps me alive. I gotta be me. I gotta be me. The dream that I see makes me what I am. That faraway prize, a world of success, is waiting for me if I heed the call. I won't settle down, and he didn't. Won't settle for less, as long as there's a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone. That's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free. I gotta be free. Daring to try, to do it or die. I gotta be me. I knew Ed Davidson. I mean in a biblical sense. Here's what I mean. Two babies, the Bible says the two babies, twins, were in Rebekah's womb. The Bible describes one as a little edgy, having unbridled passion and emotionally volatile. And the other one was very refined, thoughtful, and emotionally in control. And we each have these babies inside of us. Ed knew this well. because across a lifetime he battled between these two polarities. His old friend from university school, Henry Meyer, put it best to me the other day. Ed was a little rough around the edges, Henry said, but no one had a bigger heart. I replied to Henry, Henry, you think he was rough a little around the edges? I could never think that a person who punched a teacher in the face at US would be rough around the edges. That was Ed. Ed was the most generous person I ever knew. If one were to equate his wealth to that of billionaires, comparing apples to apples, Ed has given away billions of dollars. In fact, we were in Austin, Texas once, meeting with a potential partner for Project Love. And at dinner, he turned to me and he said, Stu, I want to be a billionaire someday, and I want to give it all away. In fact, in addition to giving away money, he gave away his most valuable asset, his time. I can only speak from experience. He spent hundreds or thousands of hours on Project Love, helping to build the organization. He considered himself a founder, and indeed he was. He hosted us in his office at CRS for 6 years, rent-free. He unleashed his network, his friends, his business contacts, and his knowledge base on the organization. He told me early on, if you want this organization to grow beyond you and Susan, you have to build a team that can take care of the details, and you have to be a CEO. Before Ed Davidson, I never knew how to be a CEO. He taught me. And Ed, as Sammy mentioned, was the master of wow. I called him the master of wow. He delivered wow as the ultimate expression of his business. His company delivered wows for customers. And he had the superb talent of recognizing ability and delegating to a team. And in many ways, he created the modern day relocation industry by pioneering, and many people don't know this, he pioneered along with Ernst & Young to create a tax deductibility for all relocation costs. And that is what created the modern day relocation industry. So he literally was the guru of the modern day relocation industry. And he was dramatic and fun in how he approached business and life. He reached for the stars, literally and figuratively, going to the Masters and All-Star games, hosting rock concerts in the driveway of his home on Country Lane, and inviting all the neighbors because otherwise they would have killed him. And even the language of his business instruction was fun and light. In Davidson ease, the boss was the veto, the very important top officer. To make the sale, you had to get to the veto's nirvana. What set him or her off? You know, what was their interest going to be? But first you had to get past the assistant, and Ed named the assistant Fang. Ed was a friend in a crisis. When in 2002 my in-laws died 2 days apart, he knew just what to do. We were down in Florida, and he and Tanya picked up our daughter for a day of fun and distraction with the Davidsons while Susan and I tended to the tragedy. And when my daughter needed a shoulder to cry on in New York City when she was alone and her first job in New York, Ed and Tanya picked her up, and she spent a few days in Connecticut with the Davidsons. But my friend Ed fought mightily with the other twin inside of him, that edgy man. And maybe that side of him, as Sammy mentioned, and as Abby mentioned, in contrast to the goodness, made the other twin really what he was, a beacon of generosity, and to me, a beacon of light. 3 years ago, Ed and I had a horrible fight. The words he lobbed at me and that I lobbed back at him cannot even be repeated. But 2 months later, he called me and told me he was coming to Cleveland, and he wanted our friendship back, and he wanted to take me to lunch. You guys will get a kick out of this. He apologized, but only if I promised to apologize after he did. I did, and we became even closer than ever because forgiveness forged our bond even stronger. I believed then, as I do now, that his conditional gesture made him the bigger person than I was. And we were together a few weeks ago at the hospital in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was coming in for the day, and just before I arrived, he was rushed to the hospital for a transfusion. And I propped up my iPad on his food tray, and we watched a documentary on Netflix together, Get Me Roger Stone, about the perennial handler for Donald Trump. And he saw the way that the character, Roger Stone, treated other people, and he turned to me at one point to say, "Stu, the guy's a scumbag. How can he treat people that way?" He knew. I was taken last week by the symbolism of the day that he died, the 5th day of Hanukkah, when 6 candles burned bright, and December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. And I finally figured out what the symbolism meant, that Ed's life was sometimes explosive, but at the end of the day, he brought a lot of light into the world. In September, he told me that people, cancer patients from all over the world, had been calling him to find out about his alternative treatments. He took all their calls. He was heartbroken that they couldn't afford the treatments, so he funded them to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Tanya, he told me that if you ever found out, you would kill him. So I guess now I can tell you. But that kind of action was his legacy. That is truly what he stood for. Eddie, my brother, I will miss you, but your light will still shine bright with all of us and continue making ripples throughout the world.
Tanya, and Evan, Samantha, Alec, Bella, Abby, Nancy, Mona, Celia, Barry, Arlene, Stuart, Peter, Randy, Marvin, friends, coworkers. You have one more speech to listen to. And I should have gone first. But though you heard the hearts, you heard the heart of Ed Davidson. Now, although Ed Davidson was born here in Cleveland to Al and Fran Davidson, how many of us went to their dry cleaners? And went to Brush and U.S. and Ohio University, got a law degree from Northwestern. And although he loved Cleveland, especially its sports teams, the kids tell me that he went crazy when the Cavs won the championship. There's a video of him rolling on the floor with glee. And many of his philanthropies here in Cleveland became his favorite ones. I, in a certain way, believe that Ed was an Israeli through and through, with a soul that belonged in Israel. So why do I say that? Because you need to know, what do they call an Israeli in Hebrew? They're called a sabra. You know what a sabra is? It's a cactus. And a cactus, if you know anything about a cactus, is prickly on the outside, but the sweetest meat on the inside, the most edible meat. And this could be Ed, as we've heard over and over again. He could be prickly if you ticked him off. And sometimes that was too easily done. But those who only knew him that way did not know the true heart and soul of an Ed Davidson. Now, let me begin by saying, as many of you, I happen to have had a warm relationship with Ed. As we've heard over and over again, Ed's personality was to wow people. And that's what Ed did to me. For I'll never forget the day I was sitting in his office, and he told me that he was going to take a percentage of the profits from the company, Cooperative Resource Services, and they're going to donate it to charities. And I said to myself, companies don't do that. That's not the character of a company. But that was Ed's character, the mensch at heart. And he wanted to make his mark in people's hearts. And that's what Ed Davidson did time and time again. He wowed people. We've heard from Stuart or Peter, or many of us good friends would love to stand up here and tell you the same thing. His college buddies, Randy and Marvin and others. When you were Ed's friend, I was just with Jim Friedman last night, and he was telling me of the care that Ed had, that he would move for his friends, he would move heaven and earth. Of course, nobody has talked about Ed wowing people with his great singing voice. Say that's one thing that's new. A long time ago, I heard he had his own band, Eddie and the Dames, and was the lead singer, of course. He loved musicals, loved to go to Broadway. Miss Saigon is coming to Cleveland. That was one of his favorites. And if you gave Ed, I think you guys told me you gave him a choice, he would have been Tony in West Side Story. He loved to take the kids, Evan and Samantha, Alec and Bella and Abby. Loved to take you to the musicals. Great memories you had with him, seeing the shows. And with his sense of humor, nobody has mentioned that he wrote for Second City, and besides being his own comedian. A lot of it, though, I understand, as the kids told me, was potty humor. But he was funny. And we heard about the funny voices of Chippy and Chappy and debating the right thing to do. He loved jokes and loved to have fun with life and in life. As mentioned, he loved sports, loved to play golf, loved dogs. Roxy was one of his favorite. He didn't talk about his love of the desert and the sun and any place, well, of course, any place he could be out in the sun and have his suntan. He loved coming up with new ideas for businesses and talking about it. He loved the business world and the wheeling and dealing. The excitement that his mind was always active with another concept and another idea. In this area, he was a genius. Of course, he thought he was a genius too, as you told me. But many of us thought that he was. He built Cooperative Resource Services into a national company and was named Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. He wrote books on the business world and even had his own blog. He would be excited today, for yesterday they announced the new inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where he had served on its board, and of course was greatly involved in Project Love, or we're calling it Values in Action, and the Sports Star Hall of Fame, and the Cleveland Center for Family and Children, and many Israeli causes as well. And he loved this season of the year, for Ed could give to his heart's content, and he did. He could create his Santa's Village people, which he had collected and loved to always put up. So what are some of the things that we know about Edward Davidson? He was a very dedicated son to his parents, Al and Fran. I remember the devotion for I did Al's funeral. And I was privileged to be involved in Evan and Alec and Samantha's lives as they grew up at the temple. I always admired Ed for his involvement, devotion, and commitment to them. They did tell me that they would talk with their dad on a regular basis, several times a day or a week. And this is true not only for these children, but Bella and Abby, as you came along, the same is true for you. Constant conversations. I wonder where he found all the time to talk to all you guys. It was fabulous, but he made it. That was his purpose. They would hear from their dad several times a day, and as Abby said to me, she was probably the one person who could talk Ed down when he became prickly. But all of you remember wonderful memories when Ed would do special things for you and with you, like going to Cedar Point, as you told me, or, well, obviously the roller coaster became a symbol in his life, or talking about movies. And you guys had the Ed Davidson rating system, singing Runaround Sue. And he used to write you long letters, as we heard, with all kinds of advice in it. He loved to write poetry, as we heard. He told you what you needed to hear, even though you didn't want to. This, you all told me that you admired your dad. And he was a family man, and he was, for you, that mention, taught you to be kind to others. He was always supportive of your choices, and you all knew of his deep love and admiration for you. And of course, you didn't mention the nicknames that he used to have for each one of you. Well, as we've heard, Ed wowed this greater family as well, and he had a powerful effect upon him. Mona and all the Sankfords, I knew about them, spoke to me of his deep influence. Seal and Barry and Arlene and all their children, I know that Seal worked alongside of Ed for many years, and we're very close, and all of you admired him and would love to be around him. And Nancy, who retained that close friendship throughout the years, the two of you would talk all the time and seek each other's advice. There was never a family event that Ed didn't make the effort to show up, for he was very attached to this family. And then the one who got wowed almost most of all was some 21 plus years ago, was Tanya. It was an exciting time when you met at a spiritual retreat, and the two of you sensed that wowness, and the exciting parties that you held in your home to raise money for various causes. Some of we disrupted the neighborhood, I heard. The movie you made together, the give and take of the exciting life in Florida and New York, and all the travel that you did. And Ed only did things top notch, especially for all of you that he loved. Tanya, you were Ed's rock these last years since he was diagnosed with his cancer. Ed fought and sought out every medical possibility, and he found one, and he existed 3.5 years more than what the doctors gave him. Why? Because Ed had a determination to live. And because he surrounded himself with devotion from you and the girls and you as children. And as you said to me, that what Ed wanted to do was to make you happy, make all of us happy. And then all he wanted was that unconditional love that all of you as a family gave to him at the end of life. So Sam and Alec, as you told me that, you've said it before, Sam, that he would teach the employees that they should get people so that they had that wow effect and that they would remember you. So let me conclude with a poem. It says, some people come into our lives quick and quickly go. Some move our souls to dance. They awaken us to new understandings with their passing whisper of their wisdom. Some people make the sky more beautiful to gaze upon. They stay in our lives for a while, leave footprints on our hearts, and we are never, ever the same. Yes, Ed Davidson left footprints on all of our hearts with his love, with his being a mensch, with his generosity, and with his devotion to his family. And all of us will never be the same, for Ed Davidson left a big footprint on our heart. So we say to Ed, Lech Lecha, Lech B'Shalom. Go in peace, Ed Davidson, for a job well done in this world. Now, I bet that there are words that you wish that one of us would have said to Ed. And so I would encourage you in these next moments of silence to speak them to Ed. Let them hear your words of how he touched you. For Ed Davidson's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God, and may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and Redeemer. And let us all say, Amen. We rise now for the El Malay Rachamim, followed by the words of the Kaddish. El Malay Rachamim, Shochem Bamramim, Hamsei Menucha Nechuna Tachet Kamfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim Ataharim Kazohar Harakia Mat Zirim Et Nishmat Yedidenu Ben Aviv Imo Shehalach La'olamo. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Edward Davidson, the son of Albert and Frances Davidson, who has entered eternity. Bal harachamim yasturehu b'seder kenafav lo'olamim v'yitzur b'tzur hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar. Amen. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. Together we recite the words of the Kaddish prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shamei Rabbah B'alma Divarah Chirutei V'yamlich Malachutei B'chayeiachon V'yomeachon Uv'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agalah V'zman Kariv V'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Omei Amaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemeid Kudusha Barichu La'ela Minka Birachata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Damiran B'alma V'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. O say Shalom B'mramav Huya say Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. The departed Edward Davidson, whom we now remember, has entered into life eternal. He will continue to live on earth in the acts of goodness he performed and in the hearts of those who cherish his memory. May the beauty of his life abide among us as a loving benediction, and may the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. Let all who are gathered here repeat these words after me, speaking them to the mourners. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Hamakom yenachem etchem batok sha'ar avelei Zion v'Yerushalayim. And now you who mourn for Ed Davidson, he who touched our lives, and if he touched your lives, then you mourn. Go forth in peace to a life renewed, and let us all say, Amen. You may be seated. This concludes our service here. We will continue at the home of Stuart and Susan Mazinski at 5053 Bristol Court in Lyndhurst. That's off of Richmond, near Mayfield, right? And they will be receiving until 3 o'clock this afternoon, and then at the home of Samantha and Alex Davidson, which is at 64 West Stonebrook, which Nancy is where you live, and that's in Orange Village across from Miles Market. They will be receiving Saturday evening from 6:30 to 9, and Sunday from 2 to 5 and 7 to 9. So contributions are suggested to Project Love or the National Pancreatic Cancer Foundation or the Charity of Your Heart. This concludes our service.